Hello, friends. Before we get started with today's commentary, I just want to remind you really quickly that I have a lot of essays that I am publishing over at logosletter2022.substack. So if you just go over to Substack, put in Logos Letter 2022, you're going to find a lot of great essays where I really focus on the intersection of politics, culture, history, and philosophy. So if you'd like sort of a broad approach to look at a broad approach to politics that's sort of rooted in classical philosophy, then that's a great place for you to go. I also do a lot just of basic philosophy over there as well. So if you're interested in reading that kind of material, head on over again to Logos Letter 2022. That's at Substack.com. Thanks so much. Bye bye. Hello, friends. This is Dr. Benjamin Smith, lecturer in philosophy with Catholic Studies Academy. Today is September 14th, 2024. Today, I'd like to spend a few minutes speaking with you about the common good and economics. This is a topic that I think doesn't get enough attention, but actually is crucially important. Indeed, if we understand the connection between the common good and economy, a whole way of thinking about economics opens up before us that really transcends the deficiencies of both capitalism and socialism and opens to us a way of thinking about politics, a way of organizing economics that is more just and is more focused on human development. So, friends, let's start with the common good. The common good, as you should know if you've followed any of our work here at Catholic Studies Academy, is the first principle, really, of politics. The common good is can be described in a number of ways, but the common good is that good one in number shared by many in the political community, and it consists in politics a shared life of the what we call the temporal goods, right? So basically, it consists in a just and honorable development and distribution of basic goods and services. I'll say that again. It consists in a just and honorable development and distribution of basic goods and services. Here, we're thinking about things, of course, like housing, clothing, things of that nature, food, but also employment, basic education, also marriage, family, and children. So it covers a broad spectrum of temporal goods. This is the common good of the political community because really this good cannot be achieved without the mutual cooperation of the various factors within society. Right? That is, this kind of temporal happiness, we could call it, this kind of flourishing is only available to us within a community that is complete enough to have an adequate legal structure, adequate factors of production, adequate labor, adequate sciences and arts, etc. Right? So this is called the common good of the political community, or I would say the common good of the state. When I say state, I just mean political community, because it is only through politics and only through the political state that this can be achieved effectively and rationally. But it is also the common good in this sense. That is, it is to be enjoyed by the parts of the community. Right? So it's common both as a goal that we seek, but it's also common in the sense that it's a good we all enjoy commonly, right? We do not seek to make just one part of society enjoy this good, but rather all the parts of society. Now, a note of caution here, that doesn't mean that they'll all enjoy these things equally, but they will at least all enjoy them, right? So what does this have to do then with economics? Well, it is the job of the political authority, the king, the Congress, whatever form of government you have, to advance the common good. right? The political authority possesses its power, its authority in order to advance the common good. It does this through a system of laws in most cases. This has real then effects on economy, right? Because part of the common good of these basic goods and services includes economic goods, right? So the common good includes many things, as it's honorable, just distribution of basic goods and services. Some of those basic goods are economic goods, what we think of as economic goods, right? So employment, revenue, housing, things of that nature, right? Things that belong to the material flourishing of the household. So that's included in the common good, and therefore, right, it does belong to the political authority to attend to those goods, right, to attend to the economy. This means that we have to dismiss, right, any sort of laissez-faire, right, approach to economics, because it is actually the duty of the government to secure, right, or to at least direct, right, the economy and political action towards those economic goods that are included in the common good. So, what does this mean sort of practically? I think what we could think about that is that Thomas talks about several aspects of justice here related to the common good. But one of those aspects is what's called distributive justice. Distributive justice means that from the whole, each part receives what is its due, right? So we can think about justice within the political community in several different ways. We can think about what the parts owe to the whole, right? We can think about what the parts owe to each other. And then we can think about what the whole owes to the parts. This latter bit, right, what the whole owes to the parts, is what is covered by distributive justice. Okay? Distributive justice says that what the whole owes to its parts is that each receive what is its due. So in economic terms, this means that the political community, the government, must ensure that each part of the community receives what is due to it in terms of economic goods, those economic goods that are due to it. Now you might say, oh, okay, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that the government supply all these goods? Not necessarily. There are a variety of ways to pull off this sort of distribution. But what's important to recognize is that it is the norm itself. That is, it is the duty of the government to ensure a just distribution of economic goods. Right? If the political authority neglects that duty, right, it is being deficient in its task. So what is it then, though, that is owed to the parts, right, as parts of the community? Well, distributive justice distributes the good in proportion to merit and need. Now, I need to say something really quickly here, because merit very often in the American context is misunderstood. Merit does not mean winning the competition, right? It does not necessarily mean being successful. Why am I saying that? Well, a drug dealer could be a very successful drug dealer, right? Or a pornographer could be very effective at selling the pornography. That is not merit, okay? So just winning isn't enough, right? Merit is actually contributing to the common good of the whole. Now, there are a lot of ways in which companies, firms, entrepreneurs, etc., do contribute to the common good. So I don't want you to misunderstand. But just winning the competition doesn't count as merit. It has to be a real and genuine contribution. So one way to think about this is, while we might think about market value as an important sort of parameter for considering economic activity, it's not the only parameter. We also have to think about merit, what really contributes to the common good. In addition, we need to think about need. And this is what I want to focus on here, and then I should wrap up. We want to make sure that everyone has what they need, right? So what do we need? We need, at least, in order to participate in this sort of lower level of happiness, this temporal happiness we could call it, the kind of happiness that belongs to the political community, we all need certain basic goods and services, certain basic economic goods, right? So a just distribution then is going to be one which ensures that the parts of the communities have an adequate, I would say a moderate possession of basic goods and services, economic goods, that is sufficient to flourish with thrift and virtue. So, what do I mean there? I mean that we're not trying to make it easy for people to be decadent and lazy, but what we do want to say is that for the decent person, the person who is thrifty and is not a wastrel, or the thrifty household, such that the thrifty household will have the economic goods it needs in order to flourish. A moderate amount of income, decent housing, decent clothing, etc. Now, does that mean by saying that the government, so the government has let's just pick one good, housing. The government has a duty to ensure adequate housing for the parts of the community, right? Does that mean that the government necessarily should be in the business of making all housing public housing? Surely not, right? Does that mean that there might be a place for public housing? Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if that's always the best solution, but it's at least a plausible one. But what I definitely want to get across is it is the duty of the government to ensure that the parts of the community have adequate housing. They could probably take a variety of approaches here. But what is not permissible, right, is a housing market that is only driven by profit, only driven by, making the most amount of money or giving, the wealthy, or just trying to make as much wealth as possible. Why? Because what we end up having is a crisis of affordable housing, like we have in the United States today, right? Rather, there needs to be an approach to housing that certainly includes profit, certainly includes market forces, but also pays attention to other issues like the wide distribution of affordable housing, right? That is a goal for the government. Now, I'm not an expert in that area. You would want to look at what experts actually recommend. What are the different ways in which we could advance affordable housing in the United States? But that is a goal. So this is important, right? I think this example is important because it shows us that if we're going to pursue the common good, which is just and necessary, it follows that we should, in fact, have an economics that is goal-oriented, not laissez-faire. So, as I said earlier, the common good doesn't require equal, right, sharing in basic goods and services, so it's not socialism. But it does require a broad, common sharing in basic goods and services, and that it's the government the duty to secure that. That makes it also not laissez-faire. Well, friends, I've probably given you a lot to think about here. If you have any questions, please put your questions below the video, and I'll try to respond. Please check out all the great material we have over at CatholicStudiesEconomy.com. We have courses for sale there. They're excellent courses in philosophy and theology. Until next time, God bless.